Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Coaches, athletic directors, and principals. I hope you all are staying safe. I'm here to present to you just some suggestions for your school and your school system. The title of this presentation is Opening School in Today's World. I'm Albert Wheaton. I'm the principal of Los Poca High School, Lee County Schools in East Alabama. I'm happy to stand before you here today to try to educate you and come up with some type of suggestions for your school to try to help and ensure that your faculty, staff, and students are safe. When you're going into the schools, one of the first things you want to do before you get into all the things that's going on in our today's world, you want to reassure your staff. You want to, as I would say, show some love, as Coach Savarese would say. He's always talking about loving each other, respecting each other. So, you really want to show some love to your faculty, staff, students, and let them know and understand that they know the situation that we're in. It's nobody's fault, but we have to deal with it. And when we talk about showing some love, you want to be able to communicate to your parents, your teachers, stakeholders, so you can plan to keep students safe. One of the first things you want to do as an administrator, you want to send out newsletters. All right, that's one of the things we do at my school. We send out newsletters to keep the community, parents, and students and everybody know what's going on in your schools and what are you trying to do. You don't have to do newsletters, just some suggestions. Send out a school cast message. Once you get everything in place, you can send out a written letter if you would like to write a letter to your students or to your staff to let them know what's going on. You can also do a video message. And once you do those things, make sure you send those things out on social media. That way, parents and stakeholders can get those to their handheld device or via email. I think that is very important. So when you get into that school building, show some love and some Savarese love, because students are going to need it. There's a lot of things that they're dealing with today, and it's some tough times for us all. Next thing you want to do, you want to be able to educate. Educate yourself, educate your staff. What is coronavirus? What is COVID-19? It's an illness caused by a virus that can spread from person to person. It's very important that you educate yourself and your faculty and staff, because things are changing. They change pretty much daily. So you got to make sure that you're watching the news and getting pertinent information, watching news conferences and press conferences, so you can reassure your staff that the number one priority going into that building is their safety and their health. Keep them in the loop. Share pertinent information with your staff. Share it immediately. Once you get it from your central office staff members and it comes down to the principal, let's share it with your faculty and staff to keep them informed of what's going on. Make sure they know the protocols. Make sure they're safe. That is very important. And also during that time when you meet with your faculty and staff, you got to allow them to vent, let them reflect. Because when those students come into that building, you're not going to need any negative energy. It's got to all be one focus and, one thing that you're going to have to do. So let them talk to you, let them vent to you, tell you some of the things that they suggest, so they'll have a voice in what's going on in your school and inside your school building. I think that is very important because, it's a team. It's a team effort. The leadership team, faculty, staff, and students, we all have to be on the same accord. So educate yourself. Here's a quote from Jason Reynolds. He's an author. All I want kids to know is that I see them for who they are and not who everyone thinks they are. This is from Jason Reynolds. He was nominated by the Library of Congress. He's a new national ambassador for young people's literature. So check out some of his books. All right, still talking about educating yourself and when you're coming inside the building. This is a very important piece here. It's called Social Emotional Learning, SEL. I think it is very important that you implement this into your school, because once the kids come back into that building, it can't be just assessments. It can't be just sports. You have to make sure that their mind frame is in the right stage, and also your teachers and staff, to make sure they know what's going on. Social Emotional Learning, SEL, is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions and set and achieve positive goals and feel and show empathy towards others. Speak to your staff and students about this. That's very important that you speak to them, allow them to, vent, allow them to talk about social issues. Make sure your staff is aware of the current events that's going on, not only inside your school building, but inside the world. It's a lot of things that's going on in our society that they need to be able to come to you socially and emotionally so they can learn and get information. And so they'll feel more comfortable at your school. I think that is very important when you're dealing with social emotional learning. Use available resources. Talk with your students about social justice. There's a lot of current events that's going on here in our world today. They need to be able to come to you and talk to them about that. You can use Zoom as a platform. I know right now there's a lot of things done digitally and virtually. So, make sure your staff and students are able to reach out to you about, resource officers come and talk to your school. At our school, we have a resource officer, and we actually have one at all our schools in our district. And have that resource officer or law enforcement agency come to your school, talk to your students, make sure they feel safe. They have questions and things they want to get answered. So that's your time to do that. And if you're a principal, you got coaches, have your coaches set up Zoom conversations. These conversations should be going on right now with your coaches and athletes. They should be setting up Zoom and conversations, getting them in the right mind frame as far as when they start coming back to school. So they need to be ready. Having book studies with your faculty. That's very important. You can do book studies. The bottom line is that we all need to do our part. Be proactive. Just because it's not going on in your home or it's not going on at your school doesn't mean that it's going on somewhere in the world or with your students. They're not going to tell you everything, so you got to be proactive, and try to look forward to doing and taking care of those things for their students. Here's another quote with Maya Angelou. We need joy as we need air. We need love as we need water. We need each other as we need the earth we share. This is very important. Joy, love, and each other. This is a time that we need everybody to pitch in and do their part because we share the same earth. We share the same principles. We come to their school, we're here to love the kids, no matter their background or where they come from. We've got to make sure that they feel that way when they come into your building. That's very important. All right, now we're just going to talk just a little bit about cleaning agents. Now you're inside your building, students are getting ready to come in almost. Make sure that you check with your maintenance department and your maintenance director to make sure that the products that you use do not cause harm to your staff and students. All right, here is the EPA. It's a website you can go to, teachers and staff, administrators, you can plug into that website and they'll tell you the chemicals that you can use that are safe to fight COVID-19. That is very important that you have the right agents that you're using and what kind of harm it could cause to your students. So we don't want to make sure that students are in harm's way or your faculty staff. So that's very important to, make sure you're using, the proper agents whenever you come into cleaning inside your building. All right, your building and classroom. I advise you for your custodial staff to set up a schedule, or when they come into those classrooms, so everybody will know and the teacher will know. And that way we can kind of come on top of each other and know that, hey, this area is being cleaned, and being disinfected. I advise you to start some how-to videos for your staff, some cleaning videos so they'll know exactly how to do that. You can download those off the internet of how to clean and also with them being safe. Give your teachers hand sanitizers, wipes, etc. You want them to feel very comfortable that you're doing everything that you can to make sure that they're involved and clean and safe when they come inside that building. All right. Hand sanitizer dispensers in your hallways and cafeteria entrances and exits. I think that is very important. And you want to model these things. You want to model washing your hands. You want to model using hand sanitizers. You have to do that in your school so the kids can see your expectations and they can feed off that and understand that these are things that we have to do. These are safety precautions. It's very important. All right. Encourage students to frequently wash hands and use hand sanitizer. Put up signs. Once again, you model it for your students. They see you doing it, they'll pick up and do the same thing. All right, water fountains. All right, in our school system, we're implementing touchless bottle fillers, which will be installed in each cafeteria. Our water fountains will be off limits. Each student is encouraged to bring his or her own personal water bottle. Restroom use, set up signs about how many occupants should be in the bathroom at one time. That need to be posted outside of your bathroom facility. Lockers, this year we will not be renting out lockers. No academic lockers. Students will have to bring everything and put it in their book bags. You want to try to do this to minimize the conjugating and talking and hanging out in the hallways. That is very important. That, you know, if you have to use online textbooks, or some things you can cut back on books, or class sets that'll help you as far as your books in your classroom. Restroom use. Once again, put signage up. How many occupants should be in the restroom at one time? Signs will be provided to each school to identify bathroom occupancy, traffic flow, social distancing expectations. I think that is very important that they know your social distancing expectations. It's one thing for you to say social distance, but they need to know, you know, what does that mean? What does it entail here at the school? So make sure they know what you expect them to do. Your main office staff. I tell everyone that front office is in charge of the entire school. That's your eyes and ears everywhere. So make sure that you put up some type of safety for your secretaries. You know, they want to feel safe too coming to work. They deal with a whole lot of things, you know, outside of school other than a pandemic. So make sure that they feel safe when somebody comes, or visitors come to the school, that they have a protective shield so they'll be protected. Your hallways. If you have visitors coming in your hallways, administrators, listen, we know that you got the mail person coming, the maintenance person coming, folks popping into your school. If I'm you, I'm saying make sure they're wearing their mask. You know, keep that hallway traffic to a minimum. You know, only essential things that should be going on in your building for you to be walking, you know, going through the hallways. Cafeterias, no gathering. You know, no dining inside. You know, you want to try to stagger your classes to get lunch and return to your rooms. Trying to keep a 6 foot distance. You need to put some tape up inside your cafeteria, sometimes divider, so the students will know this is the 6 foot line when you come in to get your lunch, when you come in to get your breakfast. So make sure they have the lines, you know, so they won't be conjugating and hanging out. And you got to have folks there to, you know, show them how to do it. You know, when the kids go back, they're going to be so excited to see each other. You know, they've been in quarantine since March, so we have to teach them expectations and try to guide them along the way. A very important person in your building is a school nurse. We're probably going to have a shortage of school nurses. We're going to need all the help we can get. Make sure they have a quarantine room at your school. As an administrator, you know that we get kids that come to school all the time that may be already sick, so there needs to be some type of room inside your nurse's office, which we call the quarantine room, some type of isolation room. Each site has a designated area where the students who are showing symptoms of any illness you know, will be isolated until parents can be contacted for them to get picked up. Safety is the number one thing. And you want to make sure that your nurse is safe also, you know, while she's down there or he's down there in the nurse's office. The room will be outfitted with chairs and flooring that can easily be sanitized, so something that you can clean easily, and contain air purifier. The isolation room, which is pretty much the quarantine room, there'll be dividers in there because you may have more than one child that comes in there that's sick. You know, so you need to have dividers set up to keep those kids separated from each other. You know, one thing we got to understand, just because a kid is sick, that doesn't mean that they're automatically positive for the coronavirus. All right? There's other things they could be sick from. So make sure that they are separated and isolated, you know, using dividers in your nurse's station, wherever they may be located. COVID-19 protocol. Remember, the protocol for COVID-19 starts at home. You know, make sure the parents know they need to do a home screening right there inside their living room when their kid get up that morning and get ready to go to school. That's the first point of screening and prevention inside your school building. Because, you know, you don't want them heading out to the bus and you know they already have a fever of 100.4 or higher, coffee, runny nose, some type of congestion, trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, abdominal pain or stomach ache, diarrhea or vomiting. You know, these are some of the things that, you know, a parent could be checking for at home, you know, before they get to you, you know, before they get to that school bus. If they can identify these things, you know, before they get to you, that cuts down on a lot of things that you have to deal with at the school. So make sure that, you know, your parents, guardians, caregivers, they know these home screenings that they can do, you know, right there in the comfort of their own home when the kid get up that morning. Our protocol for employee or a student that tests positive at your school. It's a lot of information but we're going by everything by the Alabama Department of Public Health. If a student or employee, diagnosed with COVID-19, the parents or guardians of any student with risk may be contacted by the Alabama Department of Health and local health provider. Parents and guardians will be advised to contact the student's healthcare provider to be assessed and given further directives. All right. A student or employee with COVID-19 diagnosis will be subject to a 14-day quarantine, and will follow the guidelines of the healthcare provider from a healthcare provider that states the person has a negative COVID-19 test and is symptom-free at the end of the 14-day quarantine. All right. A student employee with positive exposure, as determined by the Public Health Office, may need to complete a 14-day quarantine measured from the date of the last exposure. So make sure you have all this information at your school and in your plan that your district has for you for the return to school. These guidelines are current information provided by the Alabama Department of Health and may be amended during the school year as these guidelines change. As you know, it's an ever-changing thing with COVID-19. You might be preparing for something today, and tomorrow it's totally different. So be prepared for that. All right. These 3 bullets here of when the person can return to school. A person has a negative COVID-19 test, is still symptom-free at the end of the 14-day quarantine, or the person has been symptom-free during the 14-day quarantine, or the person has been cleared by a physician and is symptom-free. All right, those are the 3 things that you need, to have done for your child or, for the student or faculty member to come back to work or come back to school. One thing to remember at the bottom, just because a student is in quarantine, they still can do their work. Okay, if they're feeling okay, because some folks are asymptomatic. So if they're still feeling okay and they're able to do it, then you can send them work, so they can, do it virtually, and they can submit it. So make sure you understand that they still need to be a part of your school. You need to reach out to them and check on them. That's very important. And that's the social emotional piece, how they're feeling at that point. They get a call from their teacher or administrator, that would mean a whole lot, to that family. Here are some of the risk factors. You can look on Alabama Public Health. They have the colors are coded: red, orange, yellow, and green. So these are the codes for guests as they come into your building. At our school, if we're on code red, which we are now, if you're looking, by your county, you can look by your county and see where you are as far as a risk category. We're red, so no visitors will be coming to the school. All right, widespread, it says red level 4, widespread outbreak is growing with many undetected cases. No visitors allowed into the main areas of campus. Essential business may be conducted virtual media or teleconference only. So let those folks know. Make sure your secretary or person that's in charge of opening that door during this red level 4, no one can come in. Whatever they need to talk to you about, they need to call you, or you need to do all the business virtually. That's very important that you follow these protocols. Orange, yellow, and green are the levels. Right now we're red, so there will be no visiting. So make sure you can go to that website and it can show you the different levels of our COVID-19 risk in an indicator dashboard. Just a little bit about your athletic department. I know everybody is ready to get started with their sports, but remember, you got to trust your coaching staff. That is very important, to keep your athletic department and equipment clean. Make sure that they are sanitizing the equipment that they're using. Make sure social distancing, that's mandatory when those kids are out there, working out and conditioning and training. Wear masks, and face coverings. If you can't social distance when they're working out, they need to wear a mask and face covering. That's very important. And as you can see, disinfect. Keep athletes in the athletic facility after hours. As administrators, we know a lot of those kids, once they finish working out or after practice, when we're all gone at 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening, some of them try to come back into the building. Make sure your coaches know that those players need to get everything they need once they go down to your athletic facility. They don't need to be coming back inside the building, okay? Keep them, my recommendation is to keep them down in the athletic facility, because that's where they'll be working out and training. all your custodial staff will be gone for the day when they come down, so there won't be no cleaning up behind them. So make sure your coaches know. After those school hours over with, administrative team and everybody's gone home, those athletes just stay down inside the athletic facility. Whatever they need to get it the next day. And that's the whole point of not having any lockers. You don't have to store anything. So as administrators, athletic directors, principals, we have to inspect what we expect. That's what you expect your coaches to do. Then you need to go down and make sure they're doing it. To follow up with them. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because everybody has to play an important part in when we return to schools. Here is a class. It's online through NFHS Learn. It's called COVID-19 for Coaches and Administrators. Here, Alabama High School Association also is endorsing coaches for administrators and coaches. COVID-19 for administrators and coaches. Please, administrators, get with your athletic director. If you don't know how to log in to NFHS Learn, take this course. It won't take you no more than 20 minutes. There's some very important information in there that you need to learn about COVID-19, for your faculty, staff, and for yourself. Make sure you are protected. This is through the NFHS. I'm happy they allowed and made this course for us. So take advantage of these resources. The course is free. You don't have to pay anything. You log in to nfhslearn.com, create you an account if you don't already have one, and take the class. I encourage you to make sure your coaches take it. If you're going to be, dealing with athletes and you're going to be dealing with students, I advise you to take this course. It's very, very informational. As you can see, I've taken mine already. Here's another quote. We may not have the answers for every situation we face, but we can't choose to do nothing. That's Cornelius Minor. He's a literacy advocate, author. We're in a situation now we can come up with all kinds of excuses. We're in a very tough situation. But as leaders, as principals, ADs, as coaches, district officials, state officials, we have to do something. We cannot sit back and do nothing. All right? So make sure you're acting as a leader you are in your school, in your district. That is very important to ensure that our community, our students, feel like they are safe when they come back into those buildings, when they come back onto those fields. So do everything you can to make sure that they are safe and ready to get back and to learn. Here are just some resources that I use or that you want to use. We need to remember that we live in an ever-changing society. Things change more often than not. You got to be very flexible, and you got to stay positive. You want to go into your school year, negative and bringing politics and all that things into what's going on inside your building. You got to remember one focus: those students. The parents are putting them in on those buses. They're driving them to school, and they're going to be in our care. So we need to make sure we're doing everything that we can to love on them and to stay positive throughout the rest of the school year. Here, just like I said, there's some resources if you want to use, to help with this pandemic. I appreciate your time today. I hope that you're able to use some of these suggestions to help you, start your school in today's world, dealing with COVID-19 and social justice and a lot of other things that we're dealing with. Thank you for your time today.
Encore Sports Medicine.
Started as a young teacher who was fresh out of grad school and paying my own bills, so we were broke. And Alpha came to our school and said we have a teacher discount, and we took that. And a few years ago there were some tornadoes, and my husband got a text, and it was from Ryan. He said, "I see that the tornado is headed your way. Just wanted to make sure y'all are safe. Let me know if I can be of assistance in any way." And it just meant a lot to know that 11 o'clock at night Ryan Stubblefield was up and watching the weather and trying to look out for his customers. It was a great feeling. When I think of Alpha, I think of loyalty, I think of community. Alpha is also a corporate partner of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, which means they care not only about high school athletics, but they care about the lessons taught through that, which means they care about student athletes and their futures.
Find an agent near you at alphainsurance.com.
Encore Sports Medicine.
Taste of the South starts out here. However you roll into work, you can bring the flavor with Jack's Breakfast Catering. Huge scratch-made buttermilk biscuits and hearty breakfast sandwiches, mixed or matched, starting at just $15. Don't forget to add delicious fresh ground Royal Cup coffee and classic breakfast sides, because great work starts with great breakfast. Breakfast Catering starting at $15 from Jack's. All about the South.
Now we will hear from Brian Clayton from James Clemens High School.
Hi, I'm Brian Clayton, principal James Clemens High School. I really don't know at this time whether or not you can see my slides. I'm going to try my best to look at my slides as we go along. I will refer to them as we talk today about the opening of school. One concern that we have here, obviously, from the beginning, is that we are in a pandemic and everything changes from time to time. So I have that in mind as we go along. I know Mr. Whedon did a great job. I heard some of his presentation before me, and he did a great job with what he was talking about, and I appreciate all of his expertise. I've been through Lochapoka, but I've never been to Lochapoka High School. Look forward to that. Uh, the thing about, as I mentioned already, is our plans are here and they're very fluid, and it makes it very difficult at times because circumstances can change in the blink of an eye. One thing that we have worked on here today, we're beginning to look at possible start, perhaps we will look at a virtual start for everyone. We have not solidified that yet, but we are looking at those plans. Also, when we begin to look at the school day, one of the things that we're facing has been the fact that we are limited as far as substitute bus drivers and substitute teachers. And obviously that plays a very big role in what we're looking at. So when we look at transportation to school, that is very paramount to being able to do that successfully. Our rules as far as bus riders are concerned, we're going to ask all bus riders to face forward and have them spaced out as best we possibly can. The driver is to sanitize all seats and areas between obviously wear a mask the entire time, obviously with the masking ordinance we had in Madison County, and as of today we have a masking ordinance that is statewide. And we also are going to stagger the entrance times from our buses to our school. I'm going to do my best to share. Next area for us is the entry and the exit of facility. Once we have kids on campus, students will enter from different points of the building, and this is not really different for us. Our students have always entered at different points. I know a lot of schools, they enter all the same point, but we're very large. We have about 2,100 students, and they have entered different points of the building. We have a bus entrance, a north parking lot entrance, and a south parking lot entrance, and we have some come through the front door. Also, we're going to look at the ability to release our students in staggered times at the end of the day in order to cut down on the congregation of the hall. I heard Mr. Whedon talk about the congregation. We're going to do our best to eliminate congregation times. We're going to look at long transitions between blocks, and we're going to look at also minimizing that by staggering the release of our different areas of the classroom, different areas of the building. All points of contact will be sanitized on a regular schedule. I heard Mr. Whedon talk about that as well. Our people who meet the public, which we talk about, counselors, reception, registrar, attendants, all will operate behind a plexiglass shield. Now, the concerns that we have right now is obviously getting that plexiglass in and installed in a manner that's going to protect our people. All water fountains are turned off, and we do have the installation of our bottle fillers for our water fountains. Entry and exit continued. We will have markings on the floor, make sure we have the correct spacing that goes on between people as they enter the building and as they wait in line. And we also will definitely post all signage outside the restrooms and in the hallways, of course, noting where to stand, but also noting how many people can occupy that particular area. Additionally, we have placed where non-essential visitors will be eliminated in our building. We are not going to have guests of any type unless we are doing our best, unless they're definitely needed. As we look at hand washing and the serving of meals, our people are going to be able to have access to hand washing at all times, and also plexiglass for the people who are serving our lunches. If we look at serving the meal, we will definitely, I apologize for that typo there. We will serve our meals in the classroom, or what we will do our best to socially distance our cafeteria and make sure we have the adequate spacing. In addition, we will allow longer lunch periods to consider the installation of prepackaged meals. We're looking at prepackaged meals from the standpoint where we would have the ability to deliver them to the classroom without having our kids go through a lunchroom scenario. As I mentioned before, we're looking at elimination of large congregations before school, after school, during school when possible. And we also are looking at all of our teacher PD to be a virtual environment rather than in-face environment. We typically ask our teachers to meet during their preparation time, and we're looking at all of our PD being a virtual environment for our teachers in order to minimize their time in front of a group. As we look at the athletic venues, we will continue to monitor Athletic Association guidelines and CDC guidelines as we look at having our sporting events. We definitely, we've had graduation outside in May, and we had to space our entire stadium for graduation, and that gave us some preparation for what it's going to be like from the standpoint of having a socially distant stadium. When we look at the teaching and learning environment at James Clemens, all students presently will have a choice of a virtual environment or a face-to-face environment. And as I stated earlier, that is definitely a fluid situation, and we are doing our best to make sure that this environment is sanitized and as safe as possible. Teachers will also be masked and as far away from the kids as possible. We will also eliminate or do our best to minimize group work, and we will also obviously have to try our best to make sure that we, teach in a manner that does not require a gathering of students. Additionally, we will have plexiglass installed in the classroom as barriers between the students. And also we will have no shared computers. And we're looking at our carts as far as computers are concerned to make sure that we have ultraviolet lights in our carts that will minimize the spread of viruses. Additionally, classrooms, in the beginning, we will give an informal assessment to establish an academic baseline for our students because we are very concerned about the academic loss from March until now. And in order to make sure we address those areas, then we are obviously need some type of baseline to make sure our students, our teachers are aware of where our students are and the ability to address their needs as we move forward. We will obviously monitor our at-risk students and our students with special needs and our students special as far as mental health. And we will monitor these groups closer than our other students at times in order to make sure that we are successful with those students that are high need. Additionally, we are also monitoring closely our students who are in danger of not graduating on time. As mentioned earlier, we have a face-to-face traditional model that we will offer presently. We also have a full virtual model, and then we have a hybrid model where we would divide the number of students in half in order to socially distance based on the level of COVID spread in our particular county. Most of our concerns are along the lines from our parents. Obviously at this time we have a lot of concerns from our parents. Most of our concerns have been along the lines is, can a kid who is elected to be in a virtual environment attend athletic PE and practice for performing arts such as band, chorus, and theater. And we're obviously going to allow that. We have athletic PEs for we're looking at typically 6 to 8 sports in a year, and we have the ability to bring those kids in from the virtual environment. We're not allowing a student to declare virtual in the beginning and try to pick and choose what the virtual environment, pick and choose which classes they're virtual and which classes they are face to face. Performing arts classes are the same as regular classes, with the exception each one of our performing arts classes is building a plan that is different from, now I'm going to say different, but more comprehensive than what we would consider a normal class from the standpoint of English, math, history, and science. Performing arts classes are making plans to describe in detail how they will operate from the standpoint of playing of instruments, from the standpoint of right now we're not able to sing as far as chorus is concerned, and right now we're unable to play our band instruments inside. So all of them are developing plans to make sure that we are going forward with the best scenario for that particular class. And the deliberation as far as singing in class, in chorus, goes on. And we will do our best to make sure we address those concerns. We just recently received a study by the University of Colorado, and those of you who have band programs, I would suggest to read those read that study that's done by the University of Colorado. It's a great information as far as moving forward with this band instruction, whether it be inside or outside. And recommendations of some of those recommendation of that study was that, for example, that students obviously wear masks, but they're able to play through a slit in the mask, and to obviously